So, it has now been a few days since the Elden Ring DLC Shadow of the Erdtree has finally come out. And let's take a look at how some people are enjoying it so far. So what we're going to do to have a look at it is that we're going to go onto the Steam page and let's see what the review is for Steam. And it is currently on mixed. So I am guessing that if you are watching this video, seeing the Elden Ring DLC being at mixed reviews on Steam, I think to be exact of like, you know, what the percentage is, it's currently sitting at a 62% for positive reviews on Steam, which, considering how great of a game the original, like the base game of Elden Ring is, where the for all reviews of the game, for the base game, it is on very positive 92% with 630 user reviews. That is extremely good, and Elden Ring itself is considered one of the greatest games of all time. And when it comes to like all the Souls games that From Software has made, Elden Ring is considered the best out of all of them. And, you know, you could say that, you know, the catalog that From Software has put out with all of their Souls games is absolutely exceptional. So to put Elden Ring at the top as the best is obviously, like, you know, a great title to have for this game. So when, you know, the DLC was announced, everyone's been hyped for it. I mean, me, myself, and I'm going to say this now just so I get it out of the way, is that I have actually never really played any other Souls games. Elden Ring is the only Souls game I have played. So I just want to put that out there as well. But even that, I have enjoyed it so fucking much. I talked about it in my video when I was talking about the bad Shadow of Erdtree critic reviews. But at this point in time, I've put 94 hours into the game. I think before the DLC came out, I had 85 hours. So since the DLC came out, I have put an extra 9 hours into the game. And obviously, the reason why the DLC has a lot of mixed reviews. Now, there are some people who are complaining about performance issues, but I've heard from one of my mates, because like I played the game a little bit when it first came out, but even then I didn't really have any issues. And me, myself, I've never really had too many issues when it comes to performance, because I've always like had a relatively decent computer. And at the moment, I'm running like a 3080 Ti and like, you know, I think it's like 64 gigs of RAM and like a decent amount of other specs as well that I can't be bothered getting into. But like, I have a decent rig. So there's obviously people out there who probably have, you know, a little bit less, or probably maybe still using a 20 series, who would be struggling to run this game. But besides that, the main complaint for this DLC has been the difficulty spike. And we're gonna go through like a couple of reviews that are like put on the Steam page, and then also one from Metacritic, and we're gonna like talk about the whole entire scaling in general. So obviously, when it's come to the DLC, the main complaint has been the scaling, the balance, and how difficult not just the bosses have been, but also the general mobs as well throughout the DLC. So this person right here comes and lists talking about the bosses, saying that like Ornstein and Smog and Fume Knight and Nameless King were peak Souls bosses in my opinion. Dodging endless combos gets old and isn't fun for me anymore. It's a gauntlet of dodge, 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 hold, dodge, 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 run away, dodge again, dodge, hit once, repeat. I'm bored. Which, I mean, it kind of feels like that, but really, that's just kind of like a Souls game. I mean, that's just really every Souls game, like even all the other Elden Ring bosses, or like at least that kind of play style. There's so many different play styles that you can go through. I mean, the type of build that I am, I use like the greatsword and like a lot of armor. So me, all it really is actually just like dodge, dodge, and poke. And even though it's all that, I mean, I still find it fun. This person right here, Doge, puts out a not recommended review saying that good DLC, but performance has gone down as of the latest update. Constant micro stuttering and frame drops, freezes as well, and increases in loading times make it difficult to enjoy and play the game. One of the early boss fights take place around a puddle of water, which drops frames considerably. Wait for performance improvements before buying. This is also what I've said, apparently, is that like there is so many people out there who are still like dealing with performance issues, and apparently Elden Ring, when it first came out, there was also people that were dealing with performance issues at the times. But despite that, to me, I feel like a lot of these people, I feel like it might just be a PC issue. It's like just up it. I think it's time to update your graphics card, man. I think it's time to update your graphics card. Maybe that's just me, because I have never really had that many performance issues, and even then, I mean, just run the game on low graphics. I always run the game on like medium graphics, even though I'm running a 3080 Ti. Like I said, I always still run the game at medium graphics, just because I like to maximize my frames as much as possible, especially in a game like Elden Ring. And this review right here is the last one for Steam, where this guy just comes out, simply says, way too hard, even after leveling, but still really fun. And then if we go over to Metacritic as well, I'm just going to pull up one of reviews, like the user reviews from Metacritic. This person gives it a 2 out of 10, and they say, a warning to everyone who are not that good in Souls games and are using the spirits, etc., to get through the base game and enjoyed it that way. Don't buy this DLC. You get obliterated and you will uninstall the game, totally frustrated. The difficulty is absurd. And despite this, surprisingly, it kind of did surprise me that if you do go on to Metacritic and you have a look at the user score, it is actually an 8.1, so it is still actually like generally favorable. I thought that, like, considering the Steam reviews that, and like what a lot of people have been saying online as well, is that like people would have like, tanked the reviews a lot more when it came to Metacritic. To see it at an 8.1 still is relatively surprising for me, but still I like that. Now, when it comes to the difficulty of the game, like I said, is that I have put about 9 hours into the game. I have beaten the Divine Beast and Rolana, and I will say right now, like in terms of the base game, I have beaten like pretty much every single major boss, including Melania. It took me 10 hours to beat Melania, but I powered through that shit and I managed to beat it. And obviously, I beat Mog because I'm obviously playing the DLC. So I beat the hardest bosses in the base game. And I will say that those were frustrating. But oh my lord, the DLC's bosses, it's just like, it's another level of frustrating. Like, do you understand, like, to me, where it's just like, oh yeah, this is kind of difficult, but it's like, oh man, it's difficult, but I really want to get through it. I will admit is that the balancing in Erdtree, to me, is a bit fucking absurd. I will come out and say it. And I'm not bashing the game. Like, even though the difficulty to me is absurd, and whoever was responsible for doing the balancing in this DLC needs to go back and change shit, I still would say that the DLC is great. Despite this difficulty, I'm not here to like bash the game. Like, when I made that video the other day, like a few days ago, like having a go at that reviewer who like completely shit on the DLC from Eurogamer and gave it like a 3 out of 5 because they found the game too difficult and they didn't like end up finishing it for their review. Like, I shit on that person because I was like, how can you give a game that's a shit review when it's too difficult? So even me, like, I'm not just saying that to like, oh, I don't want to sound hypocritical, but I still do believe that. Like, yeah, the balancing in the DLC is shit, but I would still say it's a fucking great DLC. Don't get me wrong, the DLC has been amazing so far. Obviously, I'm nowhere near the end, but I wouldn't say it's shit. Does the game have balancing issues? Yes. Is there some parts of the game where it's just like, oh, I might have changed this? Yes. Like, I am currently up to the golden hippopotamus fight, and that fight is frustrating. The only reason why it's frustrating, and I would say that even like there was a couple times in the Divine Beast fight as well, is that you're fighting these big mobs in like small arenas, and it's like small arenas where you kind of get pushed up against these walls and you get like stuck up against the wall, and it's not like enough space to like fight these beasts for as big as they are. So like, if apparently there's a hippo in like an open area, and supposedly he's like so much easier to beat because it's just like it's in an open area than this like closed off arena, which I mean is totally understandable. That to me is like the only like really design flaw that I would say is like bad. But besides that, the only issue that I see in the game right now would have to be balancing. But oh my god, the balancing has been extremely frustrating. The Divine Beast fight, it was difficult, but I didn't find it all that bad. But Rolana, oh my fucking god. I went the way of Rolana, because so like when you get to like a certain section, you either go left to fight the Divine Beast or you go right for Rolana. I went right, and I went towards Rolana first. Holy shit. Oh my, I was up to her. I was trying to fight her for like 4 hours. And like my PC ended up crashing because I smashed my desk so hard that my PC crashed. So I just said, fuck it for the day. Then I went back the next day, fought the Divine Beast. I think he took me like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Finally beat him. Then I went back over to Rolana and was losing my goddamn mind. She was extremely frustrating. I will admit. She was extremely frustrated, but I think it's just her balancing. Like there might be like 1 or 2 attacks that she has that's kind of cheese. But I mean, you could even say that of the base game of Elden Ring. Like I can't think of that of like any off the top of my head at this point in time because like I finished the game back in January, so I can't think of like too many of the bosses that had like some cheesy attacks. But every there's going to be that 1 or 2 boss that's going to have like some cheese attacks, and she definitely has like a couple of them. But besides that, I would still say that she's a really good boss. The only thing is that like, fuck me, she does so much damage. So much damage. And the reason why I think that like this DLC is having a lot of balance issues like compared to the base game is because when it came to the DLC, From Software and Miyazaki, they didn't want people to go into the DLC too overpowered. So a lot of the mobs, like actually not a lot of them, every single mob, including the bosses in the DLC, when you first get in there, scales to your character. And I think that maybe when they were like coding the scaling, they might have like maybe messed up when it came to the balancing of like how things are scaling in terms of how much damage they do and how much health they have. So I feel like if they just tweak things, because I feel like when it came to, you know, other like everything else that From Software has released, they don't do like major patches for their games. But I feel like so many people are complaining about the balancing issues and the scaling problem within this DLC that I feel like From Software actually might come out with a major update and just like nerf everything a little bit. I feel like they can't do it exponentially because it's obviously a Souls game. Things are meant to be difficult. Like it's the whole point of Souls. Souls games are difficult. Getting over that hurdle is the achievement. But goddamn, yes, it is frustrating. But despite it being frustrating, I would not say it's a shit DLC. Yes, it is frustrating. Yes, they might have fucked up the scaling a little bit, but it is still an amazing DLC so far, and I'm like looking forward to like getting into it even more. The only thing that I am like afraid of is that I saw Let Me Solo Her post on their Twitter that they beat Mikola, and they had to use a goddamn mimic tier to beat Mikola. Like I'm going through my run where like I'm not using mimics. I think the only mimic I ever used was when I was fighting the fire giant in the base game. Not because it was like yeah, it was a little bit hard, but that boss just generally pissed me off. So that's the only time I've actually ever used a mimic tier in my whole entire like run going through Elden Ring. And I don't want to use one in the DLC, but to see that they had to use one scares the fuck out of me. But I would like to hear what you guys think about this down below. Like, have you been playing DLC? How have you been finding it? What do you think about the difficulty? Despite the difficulty, do you still think it's a great DLC like I do? If you don't, let me know down below. That's it from me. Peace out.